This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Grateful to have you here in this episode. In less than 10 minutes from now, we're going to check in with Tristin Hopper, scribe for the National Post. He's out with a new book, Don't Be Canada. It's a cautionary tale. And the very first thing I need to ask Tristin, I've been waiting to ask Tristin the minute that I saw the title of his new book. Why release it now? Is it a mistake to release it right now when everybody's rallying under the flag, when everybody's elbows up? We're going to get to that story. Plus, Tristin's got some interesting observations, been writing in the Post about how early voter turnout may not be a great thing. I'm curious for his take on that. Have you seen this? Early advanced voting, advanced polls are returning about 25% up from the last election in 2021, including in our home province of Alberta. What does that mean, man? You can let us know what you think to talk at RyanJesperson.com. Of course, we're just days away from Election Day coming up on the 28th of April. Our friends at iHuman Youth Society are even hanging out with us in the house. We're going to meet a couple of their young artists, all of this ahead of their Canvas for Hope fundraiser. We're going to lead off today in just 30 seconds from now with Caryma Sa'd. She's the political satirist, the lawyer that whose work, she's the one that her team gleaned the Brantford Boomer photo, this image that has seared itself into the minds of Canadians. This Mark Carney supporter, this Liberal supporter, standing in line, waiting to get into an event in Brantford, flashing the double bird to Caryma's camera operator. Of course, it's quickly become memed and developed a bit of a theme around commentary. The themes of the election resonating. Will it stick around? Not sure. But Caryma's going to talk to us in just a quick second about her personal experience face-to-face with the Brantford Boomer. This episode of Real Talk is happening with the support of businesscareercollege.com, leaders in online financial training since the late 1990s. They've been doing this for a while, and they've got a new designation for financial advisors, financial planners. The Certified Digital Asset Advisor designation, the CDAA, covers everything from the foundations of how Bitcoin and blockchain actually work to next-gen cryptocurrencies. And most importantly for you, strategies for advising your clients. Polling shows that 3/4 of the next generation of investors are curious about decentralized finance. And obviously, you're going to want to make sure that you can give them informed advice and counsel as they're planning the early phases of saving for retirement or whatever it is that's driving their investing. The CDAA designation will future-proof your own career and help you better serve your clients. You can get started today by signing up at businesscareercollege.com. Make sure you use the promo code Ryan20 to knock 20% off your investment. That's Ryan20, all one word, at businesscareercollege.com. Caryma Sa'd, political satirist, rabble-rouser, political commentator, lawyer. You may have seen her work at CarymaRules.com. She's the one who was outside a rally with her team in Brantford, outside the Sassy Britches Brewing Company, where a man, a Liberal supporter, waiting in line to get into the venue, flashed the double bird, searing the image into the minds of Canadians through this election. He's been dubbed the Brantford Boomer. Caryma Sa'd, kind enough to join us this morning. It's nice to see you. How did this all develop? What was going on? What was your intention showing up there in the first place?
Well, I've been documenting all sorts of rallies throughout this election cycle. Generally, I document protests and political events, and obviously with the federal election coming up, there has been a lot of movement around that. So I've attended Pierre Poilievre rallies. I've attempted to get into Mark Carney rallies and stayed outside of those. I've been to campaign launches for all of the major parties. I've attended a PPC event. So I really try to get out there with the goal of keeping a finger on the pulse, right? What are Canadians thinking and feeling? I'm interested in the human element underlying politics.
Has there been kind of a general theme that you've picked up on, regardless of the partisan leaning or the partisan context of the different events that you've been at?
I think the theme of this election is polarization and division, which it really isn't coming as a surprise over the past 5 years, watching people involved in political movements. That does seem to be the trend. And now more than ever, there is this sense of neighbors against neighbors, labeling one another, jumping to conclusions about one another, assuming the worst about one another, playing morality police. That seems to be the theme of this election.
So what exactly happened? Like you've shared some video with us, and in just a moment, I understand this to be the exclusive public release of this video that begins with the double bird. It's about 30 seconds. But what happened in the exchange with this gentleman, who's I guess has been identified as Matt Janes, and your camera operator?
Sure. So just to provide a bit of general context, this event was in Brantford. We arrived pretty early at around 4:50 p.m. or so. Protesters showed up about 20 minutes later. In the interim, there were attendees lining up to see the event, and there was a rowdy group of protesters. So it's true that there were individuals who were trying to agitate or upset or express their message in ways that may have been upsetting to people in line. But what isn't true is that at the time that this exchange was filmed, it actually starts with Mr. Janes giving the double middle finger because that's what caught my cameraman's eye. And what followed then was an interaction between the two of them, where it became quite clear that Mr. Janes and the people that he was with were regurgitating, in my view, a sense of contempt toward what they assumed was right-wing independent media. For myself, like I aim to be as nonpartisan as possible in my work. So I don't consider myself to be right-wing or left-wing. I cover all groups equally. And in this exact moment, it's my view that there was no reason that there couldn't have been a control of impulses. There were protesters, but in this moment, what happened was actually directed at my videographer, and I was just a few paces away, speaking in cordial, friendly terms to other people who were in line.
Okay, so here's the video. It's about 30 seconds. This video, courtesy of our guest, Caryma Sa'd. Check it out.
For you.
Why for me, though? I'm just an independent journalist.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't do that. We take it back. Oh,
I am.
Independent, just like Rebel North, Rebel News, and True North.
Actually, I work for Caryma. I'll bring her over here.
Okay.
Caryma!
No, we don't want to talk to her.
It's a little late now.
No, we do not want to talk to her.
Oh,
No, do not indeed.
Not one of those people.
Okay, so he turns his back to the camera and says to the person he's with, do not engage. Of course, he's already engaged, and that moment caught in time. The video starts as he's giving the bird. I know you said that you weren't exactly right there, but what has your colleague, what has your camera operator told you went down right before that? Like, was he just walking past? Did he say anything? What happened?
They were all standing in line. So it was actually quite a long period of time that attendees were waiting in line. The event itself was quite short, maybe under half an hour. So most people spent more time waiting in line than they did inside the venue. And so at this moment, at around, I would say, 6 p.m. or so, people had been waiting for about an hour. He was at the front of the line. And, you know, there was nothing that precipitated the double middle finger. You can hear from the exchange that my videographer was a bit surprised. Why me? And there was no real answer provided. There was no, I've heard and seen a statement from Mr. Janes suggesting that he was being harassed or provoked, which prompted this gesture But that's just not what happened, and it's not what the video reflects.
Yeah. I'm just referencing reporting in the Brantford Expositor. They say, like you said, that there was a group of protesters that was engaging with the volunteers and supporters waiting to get into the venue. I guess there were some fuck Carney flags. I don't know. Apparently some people were calling other people pedophiles. It sounds like the temperature was heating up outside. So you're saying that you had absolutely nothing to do with or nor affiliation with the protesters that were heckling the people in line.
Exactly right. And what you've described is accurate. And I have also put up video and images of this group of protesters, some of whom are actually recognizable from previous protest movements. So there is this pattern of individuals who find community or purpose in the act of protesting and carry that across various causes and sometimes spanning many years. So there was a group, they were saying those things, they did have F. Carney flags, they were trying to, rile up or get into it with people. And I documented all of that just as I documented the people in line. I don't control who shows up to events or how they choose to behave.
Yeah, of course not. What do you say to people that say, well, your track record shows that you invite these types of confrontations?
I think it's fair to say that I cover controversial topics. And I think it's also fair to say that in honing in on specific incidents or individuals, that can sometimes court controversy. I don't think that's on me. I think people will behave as they choose to behave, and oftentimes perform for the camera, maybe not appreciating the implications. But, as far as like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening on the streets, right, in different cities. Across Ontario, at least I can speak to. I'm aware that it's happening elsewhere in Canada. So the fact that there is this division and tension and people wanting to fight each other, that is the reality, and I am just showcasing it. I will also say that I can't control what resonates with people. Yeah. Put it that way.
Why do you think? Why do you think that the image itself resonated so strongly? Like it really did. And there's people in our live chat right now, powered by Park Power, that are saying this is a nothing burger. This has nothing to do with the bigger picture of the election and the election coming up on the 28th. But there's no doubt that for at least a moment in time, your name was trending internationally on X. That's how I saw the story in the first place. Why do you think that the image sort of seared itself and landed like in the way that it did?
I think that people were reacting to what they perceived as a certain sense of smugness. And, this idea that, it was projecting, or the image projected a sense of hate, actually. There's no real other way to interpret that gesture. It's meant to be obscene. I don't think the interpretation that people are pearl clutching over this, I don't think that's entirely accurate. I think it's more so that this became a symbol. And I didn't create the meme. People saw the image, reacted to it, and were inspired on their own to turn it into something larger than itself.
Yeah.
If I could control what went viral, all my work would be viral, but I don't have that power. The other thing I will say is on the internet, people can take things too far sometimes. And I do believe that is happening here. I've seen this happen in other instances as well. And, that is like another facet of this online culture mixing with real world that is hard to predict and can be highly problematic at times. But for those who are upset that others online found publicly available or publicly sourced information, connecting it to this individual, I find that those are the same people who were cheering on the hacking of Give, Send, Go and the release of private information. So there is this double standard. And as I mentioned, I cover various movements. So, it is different groups at different times, will present themselves in ways that resonate maybe not in their favor with others. And so it's been my experience that I get hate from all sides of the political spectrum as a result of that.
Yeah, I always look at that as an indicator that the work that you're doing might be focused in the right direction, but people may see it differently. They can judge for themselves. People can follow you on X at Caryma Rules. They can watch the videos and your coverage of events in past. They can see the cardboard cutout of the so-called Brantford Boomer that you shared around. That was some nice work on grabbing folks' full attention. But I do see a post here that you've just released within the last 24 hours, the GoFundMe fundraiser to support your viral work in response to this taken down, you say. You call it a platform susceptible to political interference. You say you lost almost $1,000. Is that a first for you?
It's not a first, so I should have known better. But so during the convoy in Ottawa, I set up a GoFundMe because I didn't anticipate it was going to last that long. And so people helped subsidize the cost of food and accommodation while I was out on the street. But GoFundMe must have had some policy at that time where like a blanket, anything touching on Ottawa was just canceled. And so I had that experience. That time I lost about $7,000. That
Jeez.
hurt more. So I should have known, but I put a sense of trust in the platform. I was not informed of any violation of the terms of service. And I don't believe that I was in violation of any terms of service. I was using a photograph that, I took that I have copyright over. And I'm aware that there was mass reporting. So people, and I received many death threats and like other hateful messages through the GoFundMe platform. So it's kind of ironic that the response was to punish me. But that's what it is sometimes. It's a really, again, an unfortunate aspect of this online culture where people blur the line or step over the line between activism and harassment. And it was a very partisan campaign to have me taken down. So
all right.
we move on.
Well, thanks I wanted to hear the story firsthand. I know you wanted to share the story firsthand, and we appreciate you making time for us today. People can check out your work on X at Caryma Rules. They can also check out your website, carymarules.com. What's your call for the election? Who do you think's winning?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of this or the way that it's being reported in the media. So I'm going to reserve on that. I don't like making predictions. It's there. I don't have a crystal ball. No one else does either.
Yeah, true.
But ear to the ground. I don't understand how the media is reporting on this. Let's leave it at that.
What do you mean? Give me in one sentence. What's off about the way that the election's being covered?
I think that there has been an over-reliance on unnamed anonymous sources who purport to be insiders, who are, I think that I don't really appreciate that type of journalism. I find that it's based on conjecture and speculation and rumor and gossip. And I would prefer to keep things rooted in fact. And that doesn't seem to be the trend.
All right. I'll ask Tristin Hopper if he feels the same way. We're talking to him next. Caryma, thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Caryma Rules, you've got it. Of course. Lawyer, political satirist. You can find her online. Tristin Hopper coming up right away. I want to just pick up where we left off there. Interesting observation, interesting take on how the election's being covered. These conversations on Real Talk happen with the support of amazing partners like California Closets of Canada. And I just want to remind you, if this spring for you represents a time to get organized, get decluttered, get your life in order, nobody can set you up better for success than California Closets. You can find them online, californiaclosets.ca. That's where you can request a free consultation with their design team, the absolute best in the business. And you got nothing to lose. You hang out, you talk to them. They're going to get you organized, a meeting to basically discuss vision, discuss budget. Nobody does it better than them. The installation right here, manufactured in Alberta, by the way, will be guaranteed for life. No better investment in your biggest investment, your home, than a custom California closet. Our friends at Kubi Renewable Energy, in particular Solar by Kubi, have the "We're Hiring" sign hung right now in multiple locations. They're proudly headquartered out of not just Edmonton, a beautiful shop down in Calgary as well, Kamloops, job postings in Lethbridge, Kelowna. You can check it all out at kubi.ca. Just click on Solar by Kubi and then check out the careers link. Also want to let you know their website is the best way to connect with their team to get a free solar quote. They are already obviously out there on the roofs of houses, office towers, barns, cottages, cabins, you name it, Kubi does it. Canada's fastest growing solar installer at kubi.ca. And before we get to Tristin Hopper, I want to make sure that you have May 14th and 15th circled on your calendar. I'm so proud to be heading out to the beautiful Silent Ice Sports and Entertainment Center for the first ever Nisku Energy Show, a 2-day event bringing together leaders from all parts of the energy sector, a hub for local innovation, collaboration, a great opportunity to highlight the expertise and advancements shaping Alberta's future. An incredible networking event, all kicking off with a big breakfast on early morning, May 14th. I can't wait to be out there. If you haven't seen the Silent Ice Sports and Entertainment Center yet, you're about to be wowed. Real crown jewel out there in Nisku. You can get your tickets to the Nisku Energy Show today by visiting yourchamber.ca.
Haven't heard from Tristin in a while.
I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, he's got a brand new book out, Tristin Hopper. I mean, everybody knows Tristin, of course, as the opinion columnist for the National Post, based out of British Columbia. But he's got a brand new book out as well. Don't Be Canada, How One Country Did Everything Wrong All at Once. Tristin, waking up early to join us today. It's nice to see your face again, my man. I'm sorry it's been so long since we've had you on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. The tables have turned, because usually I'm doing you a favor to fill radio time, but now it's me desperately trying to shill my book. So
yes, that's right. Well, we can scratch each other's backs as we have done for many, many years. What do you think of Caryma Sa'd's take there? She's I'm not sure if you heard it. She says she she didn't put it this way, but almost like she doesn't respect the way that the election's being covered right now.
Oh, I didn't hear it. I was just in the Zoom room where I just sort of stare into the void for 20 minutes.
Oh,
I wish I'd heard that. That sounds quite insightful.
Yes. She says, well, she basically said that, if I can paraphrase, said that she didn't love the way that the election's being covered right now. She says she sees a lot of reporting based on anonymous sources and conjecture. She says it sort of leaves it up in the air without attributed sources. Do you get the same sense?
I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, although I'm going to defend the use of anonymous sources, if they're reliable, I guess if you sort of trust the source. I'm not going to give a good answer on this. Okay. But reporting has been all over the place on this particular election, as with the polls. So what was her specific gripe in which particular story?
Well, yeah, no,
I am enjoying her large cutout. Did she get into the cutout?
The context of having her on was the Brantford Boomer.
Right, okay.
This gentleman who I'm sure, if you watch the video, the middle finger, the double banger, caught as a still, like caught as an image.
Yeah.
Obviously sucks for this guy. And to a certain degree, maybe sucks for the Liberals, though I'm not convinced that this is going to do anything at the end of the day to impact the outcome of the election. But right after he gives that double middle finger, he crosses his arms, turns his back, and says, "Don't engage." So I think even right in the moment, he's realizing, the juice isn't worth the squeeze here.
I have had a nightmare multiple times during this election that I find myself in some kind of situation. Like I've actually woken up in a cold sweat. That's something like that will happen.
Like flashing somebody the double bird?
Or something. I'm attacked by a peacock and I defend myself from the peacock, and that gets caught on a video, and he's strangling peacocks, and local National Post reporter Tristin Hopper. So this is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, it wouldn't be your first dust up with wildlife.
Exactly. Actually, right after that particular dust up,
we're talking about the raccoon.
I mentioned the peacock because peacocks did attack my 100-year-old grandma, and I just had to watch and say, nothing I can do.
Because we're in the day and age of everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a camera, everybody's got a social media account, and before you know it, you are being memed.
That's right. So you could all, at any moment, any of you could be memed. But yeah, I guess to Caryma's point about the anonymous sources, yeah, I've seen a few things like that's. I don't know if she was specifically referencing that story where Pierre Poilievre might lose his own riding. I mean, just by the polls, that's really not the case. I mean, I don't know what sources you got for this. So if I brought up a story idea to the National Post that was sort of the right-wing equivalent of that, I mean, they would require some kind of stats to back it up. So if that's sort of a regular thing throughout or there was a column actually in the Toronto Star saying like it doesn't make any sense why Pierre Poilievre hasn't gotten his security clearance. I mean, he's explained it like a million times. I've looked into this issue, whether you like Pierre Poilievre or not. He's answered that question. He's made it quite clear, and it kind of makes sense when you think about it. I mean, even Tom Mulcair has said if he was in that situation as leader of the opposition, he wouldn't have made it. But it's weird that it just keeps getting brought up in the media as if the question has never been answered.
I think that Mark Carney's biggest mistake in the debate was using his opportunity to ask a direct question to Pierre Poilievre to ask that question about security clearance. I thought that it made no sense for a couple of reasons. Number one, because Poilievre's team would have obviously prepared him for this question, obviously. And number two, I'm not saying that nobody cares, but for the most part, nobody cares about that story. I'm not saying there are stories that,
yeah, but there's stories that journalists get into. I remember, what the hell was it? I think it was the 2011 election where the big thing they were pounding on is like, Stephen Harper was guilty of parliamentary misconduct or something. So they were really hammering on that. So there are just issues that the general voter does not care about at all, sort of technical things. So I would almost be inclined to put the security clearance thing in that. It's almost a shibboleth. If you're spending too much time online and this is an issue that matters to you, it indicates to me you're spending too much time online.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say that there aren't very real things that Mark Carney could have hammered Pierre Poilievre on. I just thought that it was a real missed opportunity. And I think that the art of successful and effective campaigning is finding out not just what the real issues are for the politicos and the journalists, because those are issues, but also what's landing with the public. What does the public care about? If Donald Trump factors into the ballot box question, then how is your direct question as Mark Carney to Pierre Poilievre not about Donald Trump? Like it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Who would you perceive? Like you reference polls that have been tight, polls that have been changing. Obviously, they've been all over the place. We've been keeping an eye even on our home province. The poll aggregator, Philippe Fournier at 338 Canada, predicting, let me say, at least up to 7 Liberal seats in the province of Alberta. That's dropped down to 5 within the last 48 hours, but that would still more than double the Liberal presence in Alberta if it were to happen. So that's one of the stories we're following. How about you out on the island? What's something you're keeping an eye on?
The island is very different than the rest of Canada. This could actually you could almost see a conservative sweep across Vancouver Island. So, whatever happens on election day, you see, a conservative loss. You could see the exact opposite thing happen in Vancouver because this is an NDP stronghold. And the NDP are obviously not doing very well. So what you could see, I live in Saanich Gulf Islands, which is Elizabeth May's riding, and this could feasibly become a conservative riding, which it actually was before Elizabeth May ran in this particular riding. Yes, it could be in a situation of just people are abandoning the NDP and moving to the Liberals, but not enough, or doing so you could see the Conservatives coming up the middle. So, I mean, I've always told people the thing to watch in this election is voter turnout. Now, it might not be as decisive as the Conservatives are hoping it will be, but the largest demographic of voter in Canada is the non-voter. So what did we have? 58% turnout last time. So that's millions and millions of Canadians who just did not cast a ballot. If a small percentage of them cast a ballot this time, it throws a lot of those electoral projections on their heads. You could see surprise results if there's a slight uptick in voter turnout. Now, the question is whether that's happening. So there obviously was crazy high advanced voter turnout, but that may not be an indication that overall turnout is going to be quite high. It might just be that Canadians are voting early now because there was a BC election, which had crazy high advanced turnout, and it didn't end up that we had higher overall turnout. So I think what conservatives are hoping is they're saying we're doing really well among young people, and they are. They've been doing well among young people the whole time. Young people generally do not vote. So if a slightly higher than average rate of young people vote this time, that's a whole bunch of extra young people that didn't. And that's actually why Justin Trudeau won 2015 and was never able to win a majority ever since, because a whole bunch of young people showed up for him in 2015, highest voter turnout since 1993. And then they said, screw it, I'm just going to get high on voting day in the subsequent 2019 and 2021 elections. So we just got a minority. So, there's not a lot that the conservatives can hang their hat on, but it's a bunch of Gen Zers and millennials go out to vote where they would not typically do so.
Yeah, people that subscribe to your first reading, this is Tristan's political newsletter. You can subscribe via nationalpost.com. You've written about this and the record turnout for advanced polls, 7.3 million Canadians over the Easter weekend, which is pretty fascinating.
Which, for context, I mean, the total votes that the Liberals received in the last election, 2021, was less than 6 million. It was only about like 31% of the total electorate, but that's a lot of people who have already voted. However, we like voting early. This is, it may not be, a lot of those people who are voting early may have voted anyway on Monday. They're just doing it early because it was easy and it was the Easter weekend. And, at least here, the weather was very nice. Voting was very pleasant.
One of the 7.3 million Canadians who voted early is the intrepid technical producer of this show, John Hicks. What motivated you to vote early? Did you just want to get it out of the way? Were you?
Yeah, we had the day off. I was home, but honestly, we were talking about door-to-door stuff and how I think it's kind of like it's basically non-existent, like it doesn't mean anything to me. But somebody came by the day before and put a sticker on my door and basically said, "Hey, 3 minutes from here, tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., you can vote." And it led me to just wake up in the morning. I went outside to let the dog out, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this today. It was like noon. I went over there, 3 minutes drive, went into a school, 3 minutes in line.
So it wasn't
back
like
home in 12 minutes.
It wasn't like you couldn't wait to vote out the incumbent.
No, I'm usually like Vicky. I wait till the last minute to vote, and I kind of feel like my vote matters then because you've heard about advanced polling, you've seen some media of people in line. Is it busy? But this time I just wanted to get it out of the way. Just get it done. So,
yeah. Mark B's watching us. He's in our live chat right now, powered by Park Power. Mark watching from Salt Lake City. What's up, Utah? He says he sent in his ballot last week. Yeah, Tristan, I don't know. Part of me wonders if it's people that are motivated either for the party that they're supporting or really to do their best to either punt the Liberals from power or whatever the case may be. And then part of it might just be practicality. I write about it in the Ottawa Playbook for Politico today. People can check it out at politico.com and my view from Alberta. Same thing. More than 815,000 Albertans. That's a sixth of the entire population, including kids, man. That's a lot of people. 815,000 turned out, a little bit actually higher than the national trend. But if you're trying to figure out what it all means right now, impossible. I can't put my finger on it.
No. I mean, there's sort of trends in particular directions, but I would say a lot, like the unknowns in this election are much higher. I've been looking at sort of numbers from prior elections, and the standard Canadian election over the last 40 years is it starts, we kind of know who's going to win, and then we just go through the motions, and then that person ends up winning. So this one, there's all kinds of, because the Liberals are leading in the polls. You only need a few people in Quebec or, parts of Ontario or BC to sort of have second thoughts at the last minute, vote for the NDP, vote for the Bloc Québécois. And, they lose a lot of that lead and there's sort of a surprise. So if you're looking for an election that could have a surprise ending, I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is the one that's most susceptible to surprise endings.
Caryma would not go on the record with a prediction. Do you have a prediction?
I should. I'm a pundit.
Well, who's going to win? I mean,
you know what I'm going to do? No one's going to check this. I'm just going to I'm going to predict Conservative win because that's the least likely according to polls. So if it's true, I look real smart.
Yeah. I want to hear your prediction. You've been asking everyone. I told you I still believe, in my head, Conservative minority. What do you think?
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, okay, I'll give the people something. I am going to predict a Liberal minority. is my prediction.
Okay.
But with the caveat that I would not at all be surprised if the Conservatives won. I honestly, I sincerely, like, just because I get super annoyed when somebody will not make a prediction, I understand why. Like, people with more repute, Tristin, than you and I,
the problem
they want
is
to
Ontario
appear.
and Quebec are, I mean, we're Westerners. I'm sitting here in Vancouver Island. I feel like, for all the flack we get, I feel I have a general sense of these people around here and what they're going to do. But I have no idea what's going on with Ontario and Quebec, Atlantic Canada.
Mm-mm.
So, we'll make a rational decision, and I don't know, they'll trip and
we've seen elections like this before, where like it's a real dogfight and it's back and forth, and then there's elections where right away you get a really clear sense of what's happening. I think of the most recent U.S. presidential election, where all of a sudden it was like I'm talking 20 minutes in to coverage when polls started returning. It was like Donald Trump is winning this thing because every single swing state was red. And I also remember being on Global News that night in May, I think it was the 5th of May of 2015, when I had gone on the record like an idiot and predicted that Jim Prentice would lose seats, but that the PCs would keep government. And boy, did I ever end up with egg on my face. But that was also apparent very early returns showed that the NDP was going to wallop the Conservatives. And I remember in that moment looking over to Fletcher Kent, who I was working with, and going, oh boy, we're about to witness something big in Alberta. Those are the two that really jump out at me.
I guess, and people shouldn't be fearful of predicting these things, because if you get them wrong three times in a row, that gives you humility.
I mean, all I did, I bet 10,000 on the result, but I mean, other than that, I mean, who cares? Other than that, the ballot box question, say many. And this will not, we cannot say this definitively yet, but many say the ballot box question will have something to do with Donald Trump. Canadians are walking elbows up right now, rallying under the flag, Tristin. And amid all of this national pride, this resurgence of our pride in Canada, you release a book, Don't Be Canada, How One Country Did Everything Wrong All at Once. What the hell, man? What's up with the timing here?
True, and this is horrible timing. I have to leave. I have to leave in 3 minutes to go pick up my kids. But do
you actually really have to leave in 3 minutes?
I've had the criticism that I'm not a patriot for writing this, but I'll just note I didn't write a book about Belgium. I have very low expectations for Belgium. If they screw up, I don't care. I wrote it because it was my observation, and it's all backed up. There's very long endnotes in this. This isn't just me going off on some rant. This is actual well researched, because I didn't think people would believe me. It was me noticing that there's a number of factors in which Canada isn't just doing poorly. We're doing more poorly than anyone else, even among our peer countries. So, let's give healthcare as an example. We now lead the world in sort of, low ICU beds per capita. Our wait times are some of the longest in the world. And if you just look at the metric that we usually feel smug about the Americans for, that they have X number of people dying because they don't have insurance, the number of people we have dying on a waiting list who die because they cannot access care is about per capita 10 times higher. So if you're just looking at access to healthcare, people who die because they can't get it, either because of insurance or because of shortages, Canada is a worse place to be. So there's 8 chapters. And it's all issues. It didn't get a chapter unless it was something that Canada was doing uniquely bad.
Okay.
In which you could sit in the Netherlands or Belgium or, all these other countries, look at what Canada was doing and saying they're going way harder than we are, and they're facing the consequences way harder than we are. I write something like this because, Canada has measurably gotten worse on everything from the economy to crime to whatever. And you cannot fix these problems. And a theme that comes up in the book is that the reason these got so much worse, so much quicker in Canada is because of that inability of Canadians to sort of imagine that their country can do wrong. Because we have been a wealthy, well-managed, pluralistic, peaceful country for quite a long time. So you get it into your head, this is the world's greatest healthcare system, this is the world's greatest healthcare system. I don't want to hear any criticism of the world's greatest healthcare system until something happens to you and, suddenly there's a 3-day wait in the emergency room. So I would say what makes Canada different than, say, average countries is our just inability and unwillingness to accept that we can have bad actors, we can have corruption, we can double down on bad ideas. So I would urge the most patriotic thing you can do, first of all, buy my book on Amazon, but just to acknowledge that your country can do wrong, to criticize it, to have a realistic, non-delusional picture of it, and then everybody gets better as a result of that.
You write about a ton of. Were you being serious? Do we have to let you go in 2 minutes? By the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then I will do so, and I'll respect that. And my apologies. I should have spent less time.
Oh, I could talk about the book
messing
as
around
but
off the top. But I mean, you talk about the real estate bubble that never works, the Orwellian internet regulations, the harm reduction policies, the euthanasia system. In closing, pick on one of those that I've just mentioned. And give us some insight.
I would pick euthanasia because that's the one that gets the most international attention. So, I mean, everywhere from Jacobin, very left-wing magazine, to The Spectator, very right-wing magazine, internationally, even people, and Canadians are very much supportive of, we want to have an ability to punch out if you're in too much pain, you got a terminal illness. That's uncontroversial. And even in countries that are pursuing this, are very much pro, euthanasia, you should have the ability at the end of life, are looking at Canada and saying, Canada, well, we have the fastest growing rate, way faster than anybody else, way faster than we expected. And the number of scandals we have, veterans being offered MAiD when they're just trying to get help with their PTSD and taking the MAiD, Paralympians being offered MAiD when they're just trying to, that level of scandals just does not exist in any of the other countries that offer this kind of system. And when you look at it, how Canada approaches it, there's things we do that no one else does. For instance, it is among the MAiD protocol in the Canadian healthcare system, doctors and nurses are told that they should not assume that patients don't know about it. So they should, they're told you should tell any patient that MAiD is an option. So That's where you get these real weird situations. You're in a hospital bed, you for what you assume is a chronic illness, you can't go anywhere. And then a doctor comes and unsolicited says, have you considered, taking your own life? Rather than going through this. And that, completely changes the dynamic of the hospital. People have described it as a terrifying scenario. That is illegal in places like Australia or New Zealand. You can't do it. And in Canada, it is recommended that you do it. So this book just gets into how Canada, although we sort of resemble a lot of other countries in these policies, we do them slightly different and often to our detriment.
Tristin Hopper's book, Don't Be Canada, How One Country Did Everything Wrong All at Once. You can read more about it at SutherlandHouseBooks.com. You can buy it wherever you get great books, and make sure you follow Tristin on X. Thanks for making time for us on a busy morning. It's nice to see you again, pal.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. Tristin Hopper, a national columnist for Canada's National Post. I see some great comments in the live chat powered by Park Power. Get exclusive rates on internet, electricity, and natural gas at parkpower.ca/Real Talk. A bunch of people saying, hang on a second, though, noting provincial jurisdiction in some of these issues, right? A lot of people are saying, like Gilles, for example, says, I'm honestly interested in what's the federal purview versus the provincial purview on some of these things. He says, like, for example, in Alberta, healthcare, education, housing has all tanked on the back of the Conservatives. I mean, that's an important point to keep in mind. And you see premiers all the time at these First Ministers meetings. We've seen this. I mean, Doug Ford has been a loud voice and pressuring the feds on things like healthcare. We've seen premiers speaking collectively. I think back in BC, obviously, some of the big conversations where you see alignment from some of these premiers that wouldn't normally otherwise politically align. But it's in their best interest to put more pressure on the feds to fund healthcare. Part of that is obviously a very valid point. The provinces understand that healthcare is becoming more expensive. They need to staff up. They need to do what they can to cut wait lists. A big part of that involves increasing expenditures, but putting more pressure on the feds also publicly from a messaging standpoint. I may come across as cynical, but I don't think I'm controversial. From a messaging standpoint, it takes a little pressure off the provinces in the public eye, if only for a while, and refocuses the issue in the context of the federal government. But the truth of the matter is, like Gilles points out, provinces are responsible for the distribution of those funds and for the management of their health authorities, right? That's a fact. Housing, kind of an interesting one there, because there are municipal, provincial, and federal implications on the housing file, right? We see the federal government making big housing announcements. We've talked about that on the show over the past year or so. Big announcements, hundreds of millions of dollars in Vancouver and in Edmonton, in our home city, and across the country right now. But at the same time, that doesn't take provincial governments, and it sure doesn't take municipalities off the hook either. Municipal governments, city councils, town councils, and the like, obviously have the least amount of funds and the inability to run deficit budgets or to incur significant amounts of debt. So, obviously there's a bit of a different storyline there, but all three levels of government factor into the administration and how these issues are being hit head on. You can let us know what you think about all this and what you're hearing on the show to talk@ryanjesperson.com, including submissions to the flamethrower. We'll be getting into that in our next episode of the show, presented by our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Your hottest takes, not just on what you've seen on the show, but what you're seeing in the world around you. You can send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. The Flamethrower, proudly presented Fridays on Real Talk by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Our friends at iHuman Youth Society are hanging out with us today, and in just a second, we're going to introduce you to some of their incredible young artists, plus the executive director, Beryl Bacchus, that's doing remarkable things at iHuman. But before we go there, we wanted to give a shout out to our wonderful friends at Friesen Brothers. Johnny, we had so much fun at our Real Talk Patrons VIP debate night watch party at Arcadia Brewing Company. I want to give a big shout out to our Real Talk patrons that support us monthly on Patreon. We had so much fun there at Arcadia, and we appreciate them opening the door for us. And check out this spread that Catering by Friesen did for us. We asked them for variety. We asked them for a little something for everybody. The veggie platters, the charcuterie plates, Johnny, the dips, the hummus in particular, the tzatziki, unbelievable. They hooked us up with samosas and a whole bunch of other hot treats, including those chicken skewers that everybody loves, all available for you as well. Whether your party is 5 people or 500, you can put it in the capable hands of Catering by Friesen Brothers at cateringbyfriesen.com. Big event coming up with our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. That's the State of Our City 2025 on the 8th of May at the Edmonton Convention Center. I'm really looking forward to hosting this one. A bit of a different take on the annual State of the City gathering. Typically, it's the mayor of Edmonton giving his or her take on, well, the state of the capital region. Not this year. It's a bit of a different dynamic with Edmonton's mayor on leave, obviously participating in this federal election. So our friends at the Chamber have rallied together a crew to give a collective take on how things are going down. That includes the president and CEO of the Edmonton Chamber, Doug Griffiths, our good friend Kaylin Anderson, Tim Shipton at OEG, Tracy Bender at Explore Edmonton, and Eddie Robart, the city manager. This event will sell out. It does every single year. We'd love to have you there with us at the Edmonton Convention Center on Thursday, the 8th of May. You can get your tickets for State of the City at edmontonchamber.com. And we want to shine a light on North Road Investment Council, a steady hand and studied voice to guide you through wealth and investing. You can check out their work online at northroadic.com. You know, they offer an hourly fee advisory service, which is a great way to get to know their team, Marshall and Carrie and the crew. In Canada, typically with investment advice and financial planning, it's delivered through a bank or a bank-owned brokerage firm. But the team at North Road's giving successful savers and investors a chance to experience wealth management advice on a platform of true independence. That means that you're going to be looking at an hourly fee as opposed to commissions paid from investment products. It's a great opportunity, obviously one you want to look more into. If you're looking to be one of those successful savers, you can check them out online at northroadic.com. In just a few days, 7th of May, we're going to be hanging out at the beautiful Winspear Center in downtown Edmonton. It's a fundraiser that I'm hoping that many, many Real Talkers will be joining me at. It is the Canvas for Hope in support of iHuman Youth Society. And we're really, really excited to have not just the executive director of iHuman in the house with us today, but 2 young artists that are affiliated with this remarkable organization. Beryl Bacchus, the executive director of iHuman, joining Mahalia Jamerson and Ashra in studio. Welcome to all 3 of you, and thanks for making time for us today.
Thank you for having us, Ryan.
Yeah, I feel like iHuman has been doing amazing things for years and years and years, and so most people are familiar with the organization as an entity, but maybe not entirely in what iHuman does. What's the elevator pitch on iHuman?
Elevator pitch is we support Edmonton's at-risk youth. We heal through arts. We have wraparound services, so mental health supports, social services. We have a kitchen, and we work with youth on their journeys through fashion, music, visual arts, theater, you name it. It's a very special place. It's very unique.
Yeah, no kidding. I love when you're talking about it, your smile just like grows and grows and grows. What connected you with iHuman?
I loved the idea of the combination of arts and kind of that healthcare, social support kind of service, and I love the idea of being able to heal and help and support while giving skill building opportunities through arts. It's a very creative and unique place that I don't think I've ever seen in my career.
I think that's a very accurate way of putting it. I remember my very first visit to iHuman, and you walk in and you just see, number one, the first thing you see is art being created and art all over the place. And the very first thing you recognize is that they're very skilled and talented artists here. And then gradually, or maybe very quickly, you come to an understanding of the impact of these programs, which of course is the main story here. Mahalia, how did you initially connect with iHuman?
Well, I kind of just ran into it. Surprisingly, I was stranded downtown. I lost my bus pass, and I was hoping I'd get a response from someone in my family. And in the meantime, while I waited for a response, I kept hearing like super cool music, like super loud music too, and I was confused. I'm like, why is there just music floating around downtown? Where is this coming from? So I decided to follow it. I walked into Churchill Square, and there was an event going on called Cypher Wild. And at the time, iHuman artists and iHuman also worked closely with Cypher Wild, and everyone just welcomed me into the cypher, into the dance circle with open arms, asking me, who are you? What do you like to do? Encouraging me to throw myself down on the dance floor and stuff like that. And it was one of the first times I felt like I experienced community without having to be related to them or something, especially just in a random public area in Edmonton. And a lot of the youth who were there at the time, they all introduced me to what iHuman is. And it did take me a couple years to kind of find my own courage to find myself there. But once I did, I kind of just have never left.
This is like a dream situation. Somebody's you have a bit of free time, not your first choice because you've lost your bus pass, but the music and the community and then the connection, and then here you are today speaking on behalf of your experience with the organization. That's a pretty remarkable journey.
Yeah, it's been insane.
What's been kind of the main, when you're talking to your friends or maybe talking to complete strangers about iHuman and the impact that it's had on your social circle or your development as a person or as an artist, how do you put it into words?
Well, one of the things I like to focus on, it's a place in the artist community in Edmonton that comes from more of a decolonized lens or perspective when it comes to supporting and mentoring us as artists, which I really appreciate. I've never really been a very competitive person. I've been very creative, and I have been in other art spaces that still have this feeling of competitiveness kind of rooted in it. But when I walked into iHuman, I was immediately welcomed with encouragement of passion and a lot of empathy and things like that, which was a really different type of energy around past art spaces I've been in, whether that be theater or dance or film, mostly for me. And it was something that really aligned to some values of mine that I've just been in search of finding this place that I feel very fit into. But yeah,
how cool is that?
I try to focus on when I'm sharing about iHuman to people how it's very different from the average art space you'd walk into. The mentors are super welcoming, and not even just the mentors, even just the support staff around the entire building. They're so friendly. They make sure to remember your name. They make sure to include you and be actually wanting involved with you in your life. So yeah.
When Mahalia is talking about how the art space or the environment at iHuman is different, Ashra, you're sitting here and you're just nodding your head. That obviously resonated with you strongly. What has been your experience?
Yeah, well, actually, Mahalia and I went to school together. That's how we know each other, and then we started working together. And
so you knew each other before?
Yeah. We've been friends for a long time, and she'd actually been trying to get me to go to iHuman for years, bro. And it took a bunch of things in my life just going left for me to actually be like, hey, Mahalia, can we go to iHuman and get me registered? Like, I ended up having to go for like the bus pass and like the mental health supports and stuff, because like my husband passed away last year, and like things just kind of like snowballed out of that. I don't have the most supportive parents in the world. Yeah, they're not really in a place where they can emotionally support me or physically support me. And so I was like, Mahalia, it's time for me to go to iHuman. And iHuman's like really, really helped me out. Like iHuman helped me save myself. Like, yeah, I was like houseless for a few months too. Like I like just got a house yesterday. Like I just got a yesterday I had a viewing, and they called me back to sign me on the lease. And like I wouldn't have been able to take those steps if I didn't have the consistency of iHuman. Like I accessed the therapy there. It's somewhere for me to go every day and make art. Like art is so important to me. Like I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil. Basically, like literally my whole life I've always been an artist. And so like the fact that I could still make art even though I didn't have a consistent place to stay. Like I was couch surfing. I wasn't out on the street or anything, but I still like didn't have my own space and was bouncing around the city. And so the consistency of iHuman like really, really helped me. In the summer too, like when I was on disability leave from work, the only reason I ate every day was because I went to iHuman. Like I was too depressed to cook for myself, and I only had myself in my apartment. So like I literally would go, some days I would go to iHuman just to get the meal, and then I would go home and like go back to sleep or whatever. So
but nonetheless, it's super important. Like that consistency part is super important, because having that, always knowing you have that space no matter what, always knowing you have that space and it's consistently going to be there. There's always going to be someone to listen if you need, or if you just need somewhere to stop in for a quick second, leave, like it's always going to be there for you. And that's a really important part about like how just important and different this kind of space is.
Like literally last week there was a few nights where like I was staying with somebody, but they have a kid, and I didn't want to come back to their house super late at night. Like that felt disrespectful, so I just like stayed out all night and like went on little adventures. But I would literally like wait until iHuman opened, and I would be there like right at the doors after being out all night. And the art studio coordinator, she's awesome. I like, because I didn't sleep all night, like it was over 24 hours without sleep, she just like let me sleep under her desk in her office. Like I took a nap under there. Like it's there's so many different things going on. Like the art studio's literally out there, everybody's painting and everything, and I like just get my like jacket and everything, and I make a little nest underneath her desk and go to sleep. She's got like, it's like awesome. There's a music studio, there's an art studio, and there's a fashion studio, and it's like all like free access for the youth. Like the youth can use those spaces for whatever they want to use them for.
Whether or not you to know it, and you too, Beryl, I don't mean to exclude you, but you're making new friends in our Real Talk live chat
God,
as we speak right now.
I love friends.
Ms. KD says, I am so sorry for Ashra's loss. Says huge congratulations on getting housing. Wobbly Inc. says this artist mom is sending Ashra a mom hug. So there you go. I want to let everybody know as well that's listening. Most people will listen to this on a podcast, but let everybody know that Mahalia, you've been squeezing Ashra's hand as they've been talking to us. So you're here experiencing a great loss in your life. Number of losses. When it rains, it pours, I guess.
2024 was a rough year, but
and maybe to a certain degree, like you say that you've been drawing since you could hold a pencil, and art's been very important in your life. But it sure doesn't sound like every time you walk through the doors at iHuman, you're doing it for necessarily for artistic purposes. It's also just your people.
Yes. No, yeah. There's so many people. Like, that's another thing, too. Like, we went to the same school. We went to an art school. That's where we met. So we both, like, have experience in different artistic settings. And I didn't really like the art school I went to because of the way the community was there and, like, the competitiveness, like Mahalia was talking about. At iHuman, it's a bunch of other youth artists who are like me, like who grew up in poverty, who grew up like going without, who grew up like having to forge this path for ourselves. And so like I have made some really wonderful friends there that like they just get me. Like they just get me. I don't have to explain myself to them. We don't have to explain ourselves to each other. Like we can just like hang out and vibe, and we understand each other, and we know how to be there for each other too, because like we've all been through really similar stuff. Like most of my friends have been houseless before, and so like that's what supported me through this, is also having like a community of people like actually understand what I'm going through the whole time. Yeah.
Live chat continuing. Dubious says support iHuman. I want to let everybody know you can check out iHuman.org. We're really proud to be partnering with the organization on this Canvas for Hope coming up on the 7th of May. We'll put information in the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube. Tickets are free, by the way. You just have to RSVP. They want to know who's going to be coming to the Winspear Center to hang out with us. You'll have a chance to check out the art, meet the artists, meet the leadership there, and I hope make a generous donation to iHuman. We've got here. Will says this is like a maker space, but for art. Yeah. How about this from Tracy? Music to your ears, I bet. Tracy says, I've never heard of this organization before, but I know someone for whom this will be a perfect fit. Says this sounds incredible for artsy folks. Yes. This is like when you hear Ashra's story, when you hear Mahalia's story. These are just two. I bet you we could have 50 people or 100 people in here sharing similar stories. On one hand, my heart is exploding. My heart is full. You've found housing. You've found supports. And on the other hand, you go, gosh, there's a lot of people, a lot of young people right now in these situations.
We serve ages 12 to 24. And last year we had over 17,000 youth visits.
Sorry, how many?
17,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So by Christmas, we were up to over 500 youth a week we were supporting in the city.
And what is that support, the varying degrees of support?
Yeah. So some will even just walking through our I Succeed space where they can get a meal. They can just sit and rest if they need a moment. We've got a donation closet. We have showers. We have laundry. We have our mental health, Links mental health clinic. So if they need to see a counselor or a psychologist, we also have art therapy there. We have an amazing partnership with Radius. So we have doctors and nurses on site 5 days a week to give medical supports as required. We have a family room. So for our youth parents and caregivers, learning family skills, parenting skills, there's just our social services. Our social workers are amazing, and those are the group that are helping, like Ashra, for example, find housing in the city or get them those social supports that they might not necessarily have access to. We have great partnerships that can help us get birth certificates, ID. ID is one of the first barriers to not being able to access services, especially if you're in that age 12 to 24, right? And how do you know where to go and how to get those things? So so that's the one side of it, and then of course our art studios. So
yeah, I mean, but I just like it. It's about so much more than the art studios. Like I've just learned here from you that there's mental health supports at iHuman.
Absolutely.
I didn't even know that.
Absolutely.
And you talk to so many people that recognize. I mean, sometimes I guess you don't know in the moment that you need help. A lot of people will look back and say it, but a lot of other times folks know they need the help.
That's been my situation.
They just can't access it.
Yeah, that was my situation for a long time. I did access some free supports like through different AHS programs when I was a teenager, and like a lot of what I got from those free supports were like, it sounds like you're managing, and just kind of like sent me on my way, because I'm really self-aware. So like I knew what was wrong, I just didn't know how to help myself. But the supports at iHuman, like actually this is the best free support I've ever accessed. Like the therapists are super well trained for like the kind of youth that they're helping. Like one of the therapists, like I'm actually starting my first EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, I'm starting my first EMDR session today, and like she's trained in somatic therapy, she's trained in like dissociation therapy, like she's trained in all sorts of like IFS therapy, a whole bunch of different kinds of things that are like really helpful for dealing with like complex trauma and like ongoing trauma as well. Like
and having access to those formalities like through iHuman and like through the link space is really, really, really special, because like the amount of money or like wait listing and stuff like that, if you don't have that and you're kind of going the regular route with therapy, it's so inaccessible. It's super hard unless you have a lot of money. So the fact that like this is just one of the things that they can offer to help do even more in-depth processing of like complex trauma, it's insane that can even be offered. Like, so
and that's
grateful.
One of our goals is to be barrier free, as low barrier as possible for any youth that need our support. So it's great to hear this, so we know we're getting it done.
You've my understanding is that iHuman has more than tripled its capacity, which always I take numbers like that and observations like that, and it feels like a bit of a you report that with mixed feelings or
Of
mixed
course.
emotion.
It's bittersweet.
It's
Absolutely.
bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
Because on one hand, how amazing to be able to triple your reach, triple your impact, but at the same time, it reiterates how many people are out there requiring and needing these incredibly important supports.
Absolutely, and it's there's not enough supports out there, especially for youth. It's oftentimes they'll get lumped into, I hate to say it, into the adult world, and it has to be different. It has to be different.
Can we dig into that a little bit?
Sure.
I mean, it might sound maybe it's an obvious answer, but why?
I think it's just, I think the system's overwhelmed right now. And I think there's not enough, there hasn't been enough focus on why are the youth in the situation they're in? Why is there a 12-year-old that's living on the street and doesn't have a home? There's a lot of stigma to break through. I have to have those conversations every day that because a youth is homeless, it doesn't mean that, they ran away from home or they chose this. They chose this. They're dealing with complex trauma situations we wouldn't want to see any of our own children go through. You have a 12-year-old that might be being assaulted at home, so they feel it's safer to leave, find their way on the street, and then they run into predators that will go after them in other ways, unfortunately. So in the best world, it would be for the powers that be to understand that we need, like, we've built out a system for homeless adults. They've got shelters specific to homeless adults. We can't put a 12-year-old next to a 50-year-old man in a shelter situation. Right. I can't tell you how many youth will come to our facilities and tell us that they stayed in a shelter and they lost all of their items, which is not much. They got assaulted. They just don't feel safe. So
I was just gonna say, just even imagine how terrified you would be.
Of course.
Yeah, no, actually,
like 12 years old.
Yeah, I'm 21, which is like much older than 12. But even me, like, there was a few nights like where I didn't have somewhere to stay, and I literally, instead of going to a shelter, like, rather stay out all night, stay awake all night, just walking around the city, because like I've heard horror stories about the shelters. Like, I've heard a lot of bad things that happen in shelters, and so I was like, I don't want to risk that while I'm already going through this. I'd rather deal with the effects of sleep deprivation and overexhaustion than go to, so like I'm like sacrificing my health for my mental health, which just kind of like creates a feedback loop.
Need those shelters,
yeah,
absolutely. But we also need something that's more specific to the youth that need our help in the city right now.
Yeah,
so.
I want to let you know, so that you see these yellow and green lines here. So this is called our super chat. So these are people that are making donations to the show right now, recognizing the value of this. We're not going to keep these donations. So I want to let our Real Talkers know that we're actually going to match donations all the way through till the end of this episode. So if you're watching us or listening to us live right now and you want to kick in on our Super Chat, there's never any pressure, but to Super Chat Ken, to Ken K, kicking in, Real Talk will match all contributions in the Super Chat in a donation to iHuman Youth Society. And of course, we're very proud to be partnering with you on this event. It all comes back to the Canvas for Hope on the 7th of May.
I'm so excited
at
for that.
iHuman.org. It's free to attend. It's going to be a wonderful celebration, kind of over the lunch hour, right? At the Wind Spear Center.
About an hour and a half over the lunch hour.
Both of you are going to be there?
Yes, I'm performing.
Okay, what are you going to be doing?
I actually, it's really funny. I've made music for a long time, my whole life too, but it's always been like more folksy stuff. Like I'm MAiD and Korean, so like that's very much in my family. Like my mushroom's a folk musician. But yeah, since going to iHuman again, I've been really like reconnecting with hip hop culture, and my friends dragged me in the music studio to freestyle a little while ago, and they turned me into a rapper. So I'm gonna be rapping my first song, my first rap song I've made at Canvas for Hope. It's called Me, Myself, and I.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to check it out. You come from gospel royalty. Are you? Don't think I didn't notice the surname Jamerson. Are you a visual artist? Are you a performance artist?
I'm a performance artist more, but I've never been much of a singer. That's like my older sister's thing. I'm more of dance, theater-esque stuff. And I'm not performing this year, but last year I did perform. I'm just excited to like support all the performers this year. And shout out to Sean Arcetta, by the way. He's awesome. Great mentor.
Shout out Sean.
Shout out to
Sean came to my viewing yesterday, actually.
There's a whole crew in the green room, by the way.
Sean is one of the social workers from iHuman, and he also like mentors me with breakdancing, and he actually was the one to throw me into the studio and get me to rap. And it's funny because last year was the first time me premiering my little rap, and this year Ashra gets to do it. So I'm just excited to support.
I remember I was supporting you the whole time. I was like, do it, Mahalia, you got this. And that was my turn. That's crazy.
I love it. Shout out. So Super Chat Ken kicked in $5, and then he goes, all right, you got me. He kicked in another 45. So there you go. And shout out to Ms. Katie and to Will and to everybody else that's contributing. There was a really neat comment here in the live chat, powered by Park Power, from Y-Trim, who says, the great thing about youth programs like this, outside of helping people, is that those same people that were helped often go back into working for the organization to give back.
Yeah. That's literally like, no, I've been thinking about like, because I haven't gone to any post-secondary or anything because life has just been lifing, but like when I'm stable again, I want to get like a youth working certificate or something so that like I can help youth the same way that I was helped. And like I never really thought I would go into something like that, but you know, life is life, and I've been brought in this direction.
He's definitely onto something, because the longer time I spend at iHuman, the more I can imagine myself, like once I age out of this of the programs, to start volunteering and working there and seeing like what I can do, you know.
And we have just recently launched a new division called the Career Hubs. So for the youth that are aging out, we're giving them additional skill sets. So personal development, job search, employment skills and whatnot. So that is freshly launched yesterday, actually. Yay. So that's going to help.
What's with everything happening like within 24 hours of this interview? You just found housing. You're starting EMDR therapy. You're launching new programs.
It's good luck. It's
a good week.
Yeah, and I don't. We're gonna have to wrap this interview immediately because our funding match here. Chad's just kicked in 100.
Oh my God.
Ken K has followed up with another 40. Gilles kicking in 25. We're not gonna be able to afford this. This is Johnny. We will never financially recover from this segment.
Thank you to everybody.
Oh my gosh, this is just we have full hearts, and I don't care if somebody donates 1,000, we'll match it. Krabby Chris with a $14 donation. How cool is that? No, we have like the best handles.
Yeah, those are good usernames.
Wobbly Ink, Krabby Chris, Dubious.
Well, and I invite anybody that ever wants to come for a tour, just please reach out, because when you walk through those walls, you really...
It's like an art gallery.
See you this afternoon.
You sure are.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I've been to iHuman quite a bit. So I don't know, let me bore you with my professional history, but for a few of my most fulfilling years in journalism as a storyteller, as a videographer, I would be assigned to cover these stories, and oftentimes in the inner city, and I would go show up, and the visits to iHuman were always particularly inspiring because you come into, number one, visually, it's amazing. So for a camera operator, like it obviously there's an embarrassment of riches, but at the same time you could tell that it was resonating with people. But I'm going to be honest with you, you know this, I haven't been there for a while, and I bet you that I'm going to notice some pretty significant changes, because it seems to me like, and when I say you, I know you're going to deflect to you and your team and your supporters and your donors and the board and the youth artists and everybody else, but the expansion of this organization has been remarkable.
Yeah, it's been a really I've been with the organization just about 2.5 years, and it's been a really amazing journey, and I think it's probably one of the most important roles I've held in my career, just knowing the impact it's having and the support it's giving to the next generation of Edmonton, really.
Heidi's kicked in 20, says, I just love the arts. Noob Try Again kicking in 10 says, an active community that removes barriers to entry is such a vital way to connect with people. Says these connections and creating safe spaces are lifelines. Many people have amazing gifts to share. Krabby Chris, by the way, it was their first super chat. Says, great guess, iHuman, an amazing organization. How cool is that?
Shout out.
You guys are inspiring people. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? I think if people really want their hearts to explode, they got to join us at Canvas for Hope. So what time? What do people need to know? You prefer RSVPs, right?
Yes, RSVPs. So we can make sure we have enough food to feed everybody. Continental Treat is one of our food sponsors.
Wait, tickets are free, and you're providing food.
We're providing food.
Whoa,
yeah.
Okay.
We have a few generous donors that are helping us through with the sponsorship for that. It's important for us, for the community to come out and see what the power of collaboration and creativity means, and just to get to know iHuman as we're rebranding back into the community. So we're here for the next 30 years to continue helping our youth. So
I love it. Okay, so iHuman.org is the website. Just look for my mug right at the top, and then you can click on the RSVP there. It goes straight to an email. You let them know you're coming. You're bringing some friends, and you're bringing your wallet. And all of this, of course, a fundraiser for an incredible cause here. That's iHuman. What an honor. And I don't use the word lightly. And not every interview is an honor, but this one is. Ashra, we can't wait to hear how that EMDR goes, if you feel like sharing in a future interview, because you know you're coming back. Mahalia, so nice to connect with you, and thanks for giving us your time today. And Beryl Bacchus, Executive Director at iHuman, and to your entire team, keep up the phenomenal work. You know, I think a lot of times when we talk about city building, we talk a lot about politics, right? And look at us. We've kept politics entirely out of this interview. Congratulations to all of us, although we could probably have a conversation about funding. How reliant... I tried, you guys.
You don't want to hear me talk about
I tried. Is like when you look at, federal funding, provincial funding, municipal funding outside of donors, how ebb and flow is the stream of support? Is that something year to year, your heart's in your throat a little bit?
Yeah,
or?
Absolutely, especially during these times. And especially with the type of work we do, it can sometimes be a little controversial depending on who you're talking to. But we believe in relationships with everybody, and I think the authenticity of the work that we're doing resonates with people. So the more that know about what we're doing, we work with all levels of government. We advocate every day why we need these funds so we can continue supporting.
What would be perceived as controversial?
Well, I think sometimes it's just going back to the stigma. Like, why is there a youth that's homeless on the street?
I see.
When you go in and you have conversations, you have to explain it in a way that kind of just drives it home. Like,
you wonder if also maybe some of the less informed, the fact that it's an art-based, or the context is artistic as opposed to clinical.
Absolutely, that's a whole other. I did have a politician come through our doors, no names, and
which one, Beryl?
he said he didn't know how to. He didn't know what we were. He didn't know if we were a shelter, if we were an art studio, if we were a medical center, and because of that, there can be a gap in funding because they don't know what we are. So part of our job as administrators is to really strengthen that branding, and this is what we are. We're iHuman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what I was gonna
say. It's okay.
I don't know why this person's looking at me.
We're just hanging out.
Everyone looked at me. No, I was just like, that's bars. That's bars, Beryl. Beryl got bars.
I love it. Wobbly Ink follows up, says, this has been so inspiring. Says, in the past, Wobbly Ink says, I've done fundraising art auctions for organizations on my Instagram. Says, this has got me thinking it's time to do another with proceeds going to iHuman.
Oh my God, that'd be dope.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's
a
good one.
Well, you guys are inspiring people all over the place. And the podcast hasn't even dropped yet. This is just the YouTube
audience.
Oh,
whoa, I forgot.
The podcast,
that's crazy.
So we'll see. I want to thank not just these three for hanging out, but everybody that made a contribution by way of our super chat.
Yes,
we're gonna
thank
match
you. You're
those
so
donations.
awesome.
Thank you, Ryan.
And I can't wait to see you guys on the 7th. And I guarantee we'll see some Real Talkers there as well. Again, that's iHuman.org, the Canvas for Hope at the Winspear Center through the lunch hour on the 7th of May. We hope to see you there. Thanks for hanging out with us, you three.
Can I plug my socials really
quick?
You
can.
Y'all want to okay, so it's Milk Toast on Instagram and TikTok. That's both
How
my
do you
socials.
spell it?
MIILQUETOASTT.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got a website linked in my Instagram bio as well. It's Milk Toast, but spelled normal. MILQUE. Like toast.
Yeah.
.bigcartel.com.
Okay.
I just launched the website 2 days ago.
What is with everything that's going on right in the moment?
You caught me while I was locking in, so
I love that. That's the best time to get somebody. That's the best time. That is Ashra, Mahalia Jamerson, and Beryl Bacchus.
If you wanna check me out on socials, just Mahalia.CarterJamerson Instagram.
There you go. I hope you guys get thousands of new followers today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Again, that's iHuman.org. These conversations happen on Real Talk with the support of incredible partners, and that includes the team at Complete Care Restoration. I always like to remind people that we talk a lot about disaster restoration and restoring properties. Complete Care Restoration, they're the ones that built this studio for us. They're the ones that saw the vision. So when we're hanging out and making new friends and learning about these nonprofits, organizations, and agencies, when we're helping glean support and connecting people together, it's happening in the studio built by the team at Complete Care Restoration. We're so proud of that partnership, to say the very least. And I can say with confidence, if you experience a bit of a gut punch this year in the form of fire, flood, smoke damage, sewer backup. Maybe you busted out of a wall thinking maybe this is a small little home reno project, and all of a sudden you discover black mold all over the place. Don't try to fix it yourself. This team of certified professionals ready to jump in, ready to respond 24/7. They'll work directly with your insurance company, and you can have the confidence that you're in good hands. The name Complete Care Restoration, trusted across the province. If, heaven forbid, disaster strikes, you can find them online at completecarerestoration.ca. Also wanted to give a shout out to our friends at UCAN Youth Services. Gosh, it's just one group after another doing amazing work, isn't it? UCAN in particular, I want to talk to you today about the work that they're doing on the Road to Work program. If you know somebody age 18 to 24 that just needs an opportunity and a door to open to get them plugged into an employment opportunity, the Road to Work program delivers employability workshops and industry-focused safety training. It's a paid program with successful candidates earning a $15 an hour wage to start, giving participants the tools needed to enter the construction, road building, and traffic safety industries. I always wonder who this is going to land with. Maybe there's somebody walking their dog right now, or maybe riding their bike, listening to the podcast, and they go, oh my gosh, this Road to Work program is going to be just perfect for that young person, that young adult in your life. It just needs a door to open. They'll walk through it. They'll handle the rest. The Road to Employment, happening by the connections made by the team at UCAN Youth Services. You can check them out online at ucan.ca. Appreciate this from JJ in the chat. Says, thanks for the inspiration, friends. Doing great work, and we appreciate you all. Fantastic panel. By the way, they're still in the green room, so they can hear all this. Heidi says, I love those guests. I can't stop smiling. Heidi, me too. I feel like my face hurts right now. And, of course, I saw someone else who said that was the best panel of the month. Thanks for that. That's just real life, man. You and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes we want to get the big guests in studio. You get whoever it is. Yesterday it was Jugmeat Singh as an example. Although Chris Small's pretty amazing as well, who founded the Amazon Labor Union. He was in from Staten Island talking to us. If you missed that, make sure you check out that episode. But some of our favorite interviews are the people that are walking tough miles as we speak and able to share with us their journey in really candid fashion. It takes a lot of courage, I think, to sit in front of a microphone and talk about the challenges that you're facing in life, some of the very real kind of core rattling challenges, and stare into the camera and share that with people. I just have so much respect for folks that do that, and that's why we're so proud to be partnering with iHuman. So make sure you show up to Canvas for Hope on the 7th of May. We've saved this to the very end, John, because I'm not trying to ruin anybody's day, but I'm just curious to know, you have been DJing at the Moss Pit through the Edmonton Oilers' first two playoff games. You know I was going to save it for the very end, but you showed up today with a smile on your face. Yeah. You showed up today ready to give your all to Real Talkers, but there has to be, and I'm not trying to pile on here, obviously, we're commiserating. We're gathering together on the heels of another tough loss to the LA Kings, the Edmonton Oilers heading home down 2-0 in the series. Yeah. Where's your head at?
It's in a paper bag right now with eye holes. No. It's not really a problem till you lose one at home. Isn't that what they always say? Well, so I think if anyone's seen the Edmonton Oilers turn things around, I mean, going all the way to Game 7 last year, I don't put anything past them. I think LA is just, you look, not to get too into sports here at the end, but LA, if you look at numbers, look at stats, they had an amazing home record this year. I think they lost They lost 10 games at home out of 41 or something like that. It's a ridiculously good home record. So when it's full in there and it's loud, they play really well. And they're a faster team, and they're all healthy, and they really know how to score, and they're doing well defensively, and their goaltender is on fire right now. So when all those boxes tick, great. But now we shift to Edmonton. Edmonton plays good at home, not as great as LA. Edmonton is one of the loudest barns in the whole league. And you just got to win one at home, and then all of a sudden it's 2-1. That changes the whole series. But you go down 3-rip. That is a tough mountain to climb.
Although we almost did it in the Stanley Cup final last year, right?
But, if I'm Chris Knobloch, if I'm the coach, if you're anyone right now in that locker room, We have to win Game 3. That's what you're telling each other.
Yeah, you have to do it.
You have to.
Ken
It's
says his wife was
unlosable.
at the game last night. How cool is that? We've got a lot of people cheering for the Oilers, a couple cheering for the Kings. If you follow me on Instagram, check out my Instagram stories in the last 24 hours. I shot a video right out of my office, right here in the studio.
Oh,
You see
cool.
The LA Kings truck.
Oh,
This
I
guy-
saw. Yeah, with the
big flags.
Vote for
and the-
Fogel instead
vote
of
for
Carney.
Fogel, not Carney.
Kings in 4.
Yeah, I was like,
Go to my Instagram. There should be a pic from last night if you want to go there and just see the crowd in the moss pit.
Yeah.
Do you want to cue it up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, go on your NDI. and
Yeah,
just-
I'll go grab it.
But like, what I'm alluding to is that people think, a lot of people are doubting the Oilers. Are they injured? Is there going to be support? There's, I don't know the exact number, but there's 3,000 fans outside in Ice District at the Ford tailgate party. There's a tent across the street full. There's people inside the building that literally selling tickets to, like, the support for the team has not wavered at all. Here, we'll go to my Instagram. Just click the story.
Yeah, hang on. No, I know what I'm doing. But
Oh,
first,
what are you
first, I
Yeah.
got to ask because people want to know, and you caused a bit of a stir yesterday.
Why?
As I click on your Instagram story, please take my screen, John, so I can ask you very direct and challenging questions like any good interview. Are you serious? On deck, gold tooth. Is the gold
It was a
tooth
joke. But you know how many jewelry sellers I got into my
people trying to sell you the
DMs?
gold tooth?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here it is. Check
Okay,
this
there
out.
it is. So look, I mean, it's full there. Like the support, the belief, the spirit behind this city has not dwindled at all. And if anyone can turn something around and make miracles happen, it's the two best players in the world, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid. And I'll just say one last thing. A lot of people ragging on Stuart Skinner online. If 2 less goals had been scored, like if they scored 9 or 10 goals instead of 12, he wouldn't be getting as much flack. If another goalie, say if, the Jets goalie or these top tier like Vezina guy kind of goalies had got scored on like that, they wouldn't be getting a lot of grief. It's a team game and they're all kind of out of whack right now, but all that can change when you come home, you sync up with the home crowd, you get that spirit, that fire beneath you, right? So It's just all about coming together. And the other thing is, I don't think we've ever seen a Kings team like this. Like 3 years in a row, we just passed them.
Next.
This year, it's like how many times, even a broken clock is right twice a day? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many times do you have to lose before you learn something about a team? They've clearly studied us, right?
Yeah.
So we just gotta be tight. And, we had Kane back last night, and he's kind of shaking the rust off.
Yeah.
We were talking about this, like, when Cassian came back from an injury in the playoffs. I think it was, 3-4 years, whatever it was. He was railroading people in the first game, and people were roaring. And that's in the last few years, things have changed. Like, you don't come back and just come out the gates like a racehorse.
Yeah.
The guy, you saw what happened to his wrist, right?
Although Matthew Tkachuk came back with 3 points in his first game back for the Panthers. That was a hell
I
of a
thought he was
return.
out for all.
No, yeah.
He was not going to come back,
he's
and then
back.
he came
He's
back.
ready to rock.
Anyways.
LT's trolling us, which it took me a second. LT just says, damn, look at the crowd sizes. And I'm like, yeah, look at it. And then I'm like, oh, I think we're getting trolled. The political
But we
reference.
have actual, we have actual counts of the crowd. So
You have
You have to. You can only let
you're
so
in
many
such
people
an
in, right?
interesting vantage point when you're doing that. Johnny DJing, of course, over at the Moss Pit for basically every game, and you must kind of because you're elevated in that DJ. It's probably the coolest DJ booth in the city, I would say, wouldn't you? Looking over however many thousand, probably 15,000 people. No, I'm just joking, but at least a few thousand people. But you can feel like when the crowd's pumped up, it's like emanating up to you, and when the crowd gets deflated, it must feel like a vacuum in there.
Oh yeah, it's so weird that it's like a big breathing entity, right?
Yeah.
You hype them up, you feel that energy, you play the right song, you feel that energy. But last night, and this isn't like anything negative, it's just what I was feeling was immediate anxiety. Like people were very nervous at the start, not kind of dancing, kind of just looking up at the screen and hoping for the best. And then, as the night goes on, the drinks start flowing. Even in the third period when we scored and it was 3-1 going into the third, we're like, everything's fine because the big comeback from the game before, right?
Yeah.
So now, between the second and the third, everyone starts dancing. You can feel that energy rising a bit. And then start of the third,
shrooms
everyone's
are
like,
kicking in.
drop that puck, right? And then of course, the deflation in the last 5 minutes of the game, and it's just
horrible.
It's incredible to be up there. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to the Oilers Entertainment Group, Edmonton Oilers, the Ford tailgate party, the fan park across the street, the whole thing.
Man, you're not accepting an award right now.
I'm just saying, like I always talk about it, but I should shout out because we're just the people who get up there. There's a ton of people who show up there at like 9 a.m. and set up lights. You
get all the glory,
and they have, they do all the meetings and scheduling, and the whole team there is really doing an incredible job. And I think last year just showed us that like you have to prep like way to the end, because you could go all the way to Game 7. You have to prep all these events all the way through.
Yeah.
And
if we know anything about Oilers fans, if you build it, they will come. That's a fact.
They have.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Ivana, by the way, who's watching us. She's just checked in with the show. She's watching us live streaming from Warsaw, Poland right now. How cool is that? So a shout out to you. I can't believe JJ. I cannot relate to JJ. No offense. That's okay. But JJ offering some advice to Real Talkers right now says, you know how to guarantee to not have your heart broken during this time of year? Don't be a hockey fan. JJ says, it's great. I'm just living my life. Hockey stats free. No mental anguish. Politics excluded. JJ says, I'm winning at life. There you go. I cannot relate, but it must be nice. Although I do feel somewhat insulated right now.
I can say that in my entire life, there's been very few times where I was like, Charlie Sheen winning, like I've been like, oh, today's a great day, or like I'm having some luck. But if you're winning, then kudos to you, man. You're living. Yeah, I'm still waiting for that week.
Shout out again, by the way, to Chad F. I want to make sure I mentioned this. Chad F. Contributing $100 in our super chat for iHuman.
Thank you
so
much.
Appreciate that.
That was just incredible.
You know what?
And like the thing that concerns me is what she was talking about at the end. How like, going around asking for more funding. Clearly, this is an amazing place that is helping kids be creative and be themselves and grow up. And look at our guest here today, who wants to, in turn, do that when they get older.
Yeah.
And to try and find funding and have the reason be because you're not specific. There should be places where you can get mental health supports, be creative, dance, cry on someone's shoulder, get educated, all these things in one place. And I think iHuman has figured that out. And be a place where, if you don't have a place to stay at the end of the day, you can crash or get a meal. It's like they're doing it all in one. It's amazing.
Yeah. We've seen in practice that if the offerings or if the services of a certain organization or nonprofit or health agency or whatever, I mean, there's thousands of them across the country. And I mean, internationally, you could talk about USAID and what's happening with Doge and Donald Trump and Elon Musk right now, defunding billions and billions and billions of dollars. And we've heard even, an example in Africa. We were talking to our friends from Innovative Canadians for Change just a while ago. Gosh, we've had some inspiring conversations lately, haven't we? Mm-hmm. But when this funding is pulled, the rug is just pulled out under so many people. An example here closer to home would be harm reduction services. I think that the position of this show, at least my position, is informed by my personal experience, what I've heard firsthand from people, the science, evidence, healthcare providers, and survivors, and people who look to this and say that detox programs, as an example, and longer-term supports, as an example, are obviously part of a holistic approach to harm reduction. You need to have things like supervised consumption services, but in the province of Alberta, ideologically, that does not align with the current government, and so funding's pulled, and that impacts people, most especially people who use drugs, on a very real, daily level, and that's something that we want to make sure that we use this platform to remind people about, because that's something that does happen.
Yeah.
Funding is not guaranteed for these organizations.
And we need it more for these places with all these branches, multi-pronged. I love that iHuman, like someone who's going through, the phases of becoming an adult, as well as dealing with houselessness, maybe an addiction problem. I mean, of course they're going to have mental health issues. Of course they're going to need all these other things. They don't just need a place to stay and a meal and a friend to talk to and places to have a creative outlet. They need all of them, right? So iHuman's really centered in on that, and there should be more spaces that are all these things, right? It also makes it a much safer space when it's not just a place like no disrespect to places that are just shelters or just mental health support places. But when you go there for one thing, I mean, what happens after your appointment or after you get up in the morning and leave? Like, then you have to go to another place or figure out what you're going to do for your meal or the next thing. I just love that iHuman is the hub for all that. Like, let's get them a warehouse with tons of room. Like,
How cool
let's
would it be?
expand this thing and make it huge.
We've got 30,000 square feet. No, it's not 30,000. What is it?
To our building
It's about
manager.
10,000. It's about 10,000. To our building manager. What's our commission if we fill the space above us? You see this, by the way, Elon, the world's richest man, is stepping away from Doge. Do you see this? The BBC reporting after Tesla profits plunge. Lily Jamali doing the reporting here, but they say typically like the context of his employment under Donald Trump or his involvement with the government would have been limited to 130 days. But as Musk has led this advisory body, the Department for Government Efficiency, DOGE, putting him at the heart of cutting U.S. spending and jobs for that matter, has sparked protests and boycotts of Tesla cars around the world. Musk, who contributed more than $250 million to Trump's reelection. You imagine being able to do that? We were joking about this yesterday, you and me. Imagine being in that level of wealth. We were talking about Jeff Bezos after we talked to Chris Smalls, who went head-to-head with Jeff Bezos and started the Amazon Labor Union. Imagine being able to kick in $250 million to help somebody you like get elected as president. But on Tuesday, so this is 2 days before we're talking about this right now. Tesla reporting a 20% drop in car sales for the first 3 months of the year compared with the same period last year. Profits falling more than 70%.
Yeah.
If you're a Tesla shareholder, if you're on the board, you're sounding the alarm in a big way.
Well, that's what I mean. The headline is like Elon stepping down. There's no way he wanted to do this. He loves wearing the sunglasses, taking the chainsaw on stage, making tweets every day that he's doing things. These are people who have invested millions, perhaps billions, altogether trillions over the course of his career into Tesla, helped back him to buy Twitter and turn it into X. Whatever this money is, I mean, I've looked at the list of people who bought in and backed him when he wanted to, become because he didn't actually found Tesla, right? Like there were two other guys, and he actually he went to court to try and make his name seem like he started the company. I'm not saying he wasn't there in the beginning stages, but he spent a lot of money. But at every stage of his career, he's had backers and people he's taken money from. And he's still the list is huge. There's some Saudi money in there. There's crazy. So guaranteed he got I say a phone call, but I'm guessing it was a Zoom where a bunch of people were like, dude, before we're totally bankrupt with our investment.
I mean, check out what I'm showing you on my screen for those listening on the podcast. Tesla's share price showing the rise and fall from April 24 to April 25.
So look at
year
that.
over year. But
if your investment was 5x
this year, shares down 37%.
That's crazy.
For a lot of people that have a lot invested in that company. That's a huge deal,
especially in this economy.
Yeah, right. Dubious says hopefully he'll get kicked out of Tesla. I'm not going to read the second half of the comment. Almost had me there, Dubious. Almost had me there.
What?
You can let me know what you think. It's not a generous comment, and I'm going to leave it at that, but it did make me laugh. You can send us a note anytime to talk at RyanJesperson.com. Hey, make sure you tell your friends about what's happening here and invite them to subscribe as well, whether that's on YouTube or wherever they get their podcasts or both. We sure appreciate it. The show has been growing, and in large part, that's because of you, Real Talkers. Our thanks again to our friends at iHuman for joining us. We'll see you at Canvas for Hope on the 7th of May at the Windspear. iHuman.org to RSVP. There's no cost attached to showing up. Show up, be inspired, and if you can, maybe donate a few bucks or a few bucks more as you feel led. Also want to remind you as we wrap today's episode that on the 19th of June, that's a Thursday, at 2 p.m., the shotgun start for the 4th annual Real Talk Golf Classic. Our friends at the Ranch Golf and Country Club welcoming us back. Go to RyanJesperson.com, click on the events link. That's where you'll find the Real Talk Golf Classic, presented by our friends at National Bank. It's going to be an amazing day in support of the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. We'd love to see you there. In the meantime, make it a great day.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks. General Manager Katie Cook-Chivers. Account Coordinator Lawrence Derlego. Human Resources Lena Shepard. Website Design Mike Johnston. Voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjasperson.com.